Love 'em or hate 'em, it's a simple fact that guns facilitate violence. And while the real-life right to bear arms is a hotly debated topic, we've pretty much come to accept that video games have no problem giving players a peace and letting them shoot anything that moves. Our so-called heroes have probably put more bullets in living bodies than there are drops of rain during a thunderstorm. That's why, when a gun comes along that doesn't exist to end lives, it feels that much more special. I'm Lucas Sullivan, Senior Editor at Games Radar Plus, here to show you 9 video game guns that promote peace and do no damage, at least not directly. The Medigun from Team Fortress 2. With so many items added post-release, Team Fortress 2 covers almost every weaponry trope in the book. A few of them are uniquely non-lethal, like the Demo Man's sticky jumper for practicing explosive-based air travel, or the Engineer's Rescue Ranger shotgun that fires a sentry-repairing bolt. But none are as iconic as the Medic's trusty Medigun, the hose-like sidearm that sprays out healing instead of hurt. When you're constantly being riddled with bullets and singed by flamethrowers, getting shot by a Medigun, or made invincible with its supercharge, is the cure for all that ails you. The Avoca from Persona 3. Even if you've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game in your life, you're probably somewhat familiar with the Avoca. That's because the imagery associated with it is so intense. Teenagers putting a Ruger-like pistol directly to their heads and pulling the trigger. Contrary to what you might think, they're not taking their own lives in dramatic fashion. This is one method for summoning your persona, a physical manifestation of your innermost feelings. Rather than blasting out bullets, the Evoker causes a sort of ethereal shattered glass to spray from the other side of the user's cranium. After a flurry of jump cuts, an almighty persona will appear from a plume of fog. It's unclear whether or not the school faculty approves of its students brandishing mystical firearms after class. The Happy Bubble Blaster from Just Cause 2. Given how enamored Just Cause 2 is with wanton destruction, it's nice to see that main man Rico Rodriguez knows how to have a little lighthearted fun during his time spent on Panau. Unlike just about everything else in the game, the Happy Bubble Blaster does 0 damage. If you're feeling really whimsical, you can even dual wield them like 2 brightly colored plastic pistols. But it seems that no one else on Panau appreciates such a delightful children's toy as much as Rico. Pedestrians will run screaming when you try to brighten their day with a barrage of bubbles, and military officials will actually deem Rico a threat if he fires harmless suds in their direction. The Shark OMatic from Saints Row the Third. But wait, you say. The moment you shoot someone with a Shark OMatic, an enormous great white shark bursts forth from the pavement and devours the target in a single bite. How is that not killing? Ah, but you see, dear viewer, the Shark OMatic itself merely blasts a splattering of slimy chum when fired. How can the user be to blame if a street shark just so happens to be swimming beneath the concrete nearby? All you're guilty of is covering random pedestrians in rotting fish guts. The rest was simply nature running its course. The Portal Gun from Portal. Oh sure, Aperture Science's official name for this technological marvel is Handheld Portal Device, but come on. It's a gun that shoots colorful, space-altering portals, so let's call a spade a spade. You probably shouldn't look down the barrel of this contraption and fire, but the Portal Gun is all about expanding one's mind with reality-bending possibility, rather than snuffing out lives. Admittedly, the Portal Gun can sometimes act as a deadly weapon. I imagine that anyone without Chell's advanced knee replacements strapped to their calves would experience leg-shattering agony if they messed around with the Portal Gun's momentum-based possibilities. The Zorchers from Chex Quest. If you've never played the greatest piece of serial marketing material ever made, you've seriously been missing out. As a kid, trying to convince your parents to buy the hyper-violent Doom was a mighty tough sell. But reskin all those hellish demons into sentient globs of green snot, and suddenly, this FPS is fun for the whole family. Of course, shooting your enemies with shotgun pellets and BFG blasts isn't very life-affirming. So instead, all of the firearms in Chex Quest were changed into Zorchers. These blasters come in many shapes and sizes, all parallels to Doom's arsenal, but they all shoot out balls of bright red energy. In my younger days, I always assumed that firing those blasts of plasma at the antagonistic phlegmoids was simply causing them to evaporate into thin air. But no, Once you've hit your target with enough Zorcher shots, it actually teleports the alien back to its own slimy dimension. These guns don't kill your enemies, they just return them to their natural habitats. Sweet. The Solar Gun from Metal Gear Solid 4. Now I know I said that stealth-based tranquilizers would be excluded from this list, but this here piece is worth making an exception. The Solar Gun is powered entirely by sunlight and might be the most effective non-lethal methods for eliminating enemies. When fully charged, the Solar Gun blasts a pulse of energy that knocks enemies out cold with the power of the sun's radiation. This doohickey looks pretty goofy compared to all the hyper-realistic ordnance and futuristic war machines that define the Metal Gear series, but there's a reason for that. The Solar Gun is an exact replica of the Night Pistol from Lunar Nights, the final entry in Konami's Boktai series. Hideo Kojima was the producer of that series, which explains why Solid Snake can brandish such a unique, child-friendly weapon on the battlefield. The Gal Gun from Galgun. Imagine walking into a publisher's office and pitching them on a rail shooter, where you aim and fire at crowds of teenage girls with an actual pistol. You're guaranteed to be escorted off the premises and possibly jailed. Alternatively, you could change the deadly weapon being discharged at underage women into a love gun. That way, you're only half as likely to be kicked out and/or jailed. The premise of this sexually charged light gun shooter is that Tenzo, the average student you play as, accidentally got shot repeatedly by a Cupid in training and is now the most desirable dude on campus. To fend off the hordes of aroused women that are now desperate for your affection, you'll have to shoot them with pheromone shots until the girls reach such a heavenly state of ecstasy that they eventually just pass out. The Morpho Ray from Ratchet & Clank. It seems so innocent, so playful, but maybe one of the most memorable weapons in the original Ratchet & Clank is also one of its darkest. When you think about it, being forced to live out the rest of your days as a chicken is probably a fate worse than death. Though the Gadgetron brand Morpho Ray only appeared in the first game, its legacy carried on throughout the entire Ratchet & Clank series. Plenty of other space-age technologies tried to emulate its hilarious power, including the Sheepinator, Quacko Ray, Mutator, Pork Bomb Gun, Borzooka, and Chimp OMatic. Which of these ingenious, totally harmless guns do you wish you could wield in real life? Let us know in the comments below. And for more videos like this one, be sure to go to youtube.com/gamesradar.